Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
It's another time, another year, another place, and we talk to people who've really had some serious problems, and one of which, Faith Farm Ministries, really takes it on. They really know what to do. And we have the Okeechobee Campus Director for Faith Farm Ministries, Rick Aspden, and Rick he certainly knows what he's doing. He wrote a great article which is coming out in our October issue. It's called The Curse of the Addict's Child. You know, Rick, I know about that curse because I've attended a lot of the graduations.
Right.
And that's where you see the children affected. I don't know if it's more the parents or more, but the children are affected. Tell me how the children are affected.
Well, there's a number of ways that children are affected. You know, first and foremost, the majority, and if I remember my statistics properly, 80% of people that are in current addiction range between 18 and 44 years old, and so that's right in there in childbearing years. And so, you know, depending on whether you're the male or the female in the situation, there can be really, really bad influences on the child. You know, from you know, the alcohol or the crack babies. We've all heard of those, and the alcohol syndrome that babies have. And then, of course, you know, typically when we have alcoholics and drug addicts as parents, they generally don't do probably the greatest job at being a parent because they're more concerned with their addiction, you know, and so there's a lot of dysfunction that goes along that. Then there's problems with the law that comes along with that, and then a lot of times the children are displaced, and so the children really are the ones that, you know, that fallout, as I mentioned in the article, that fallout is that's a generational thing that continues to spiral, and it's really spiraling out of control.
I just jumped into this so quickly. I want to just explain that Rick Aspden is the Okeechobee Campus Director at Faith Farm Ministries. That's out in Okeechobee, and that's about an hour from here in Boca, something like that.
About an hour, 15 minutes, yep.
And it's so nice to have Rick back. He's done this before, but he wrote this great article, and that's how I learned a lot about things. And we've been working with Faith Farm Ministries for a long, long time, and every time I have someone on the show, I always learn something new. I'm always amazed at what you can accomplish out there. I think the leadership, people like you, are so passionate about the people who come there, and they need care, they need love in a sense, they need, I think the word is appreciation, because people who have found themselves as addicts, I don't think they even know what the word appreciation is, do they?
Well, and they don't know what love is, that's for sure. You know, they have a skewed view of love. Huh. And so, you know, one of the jobs that we have is, you know, of course, is to love on them. But again, you know, generally speaking, when they first come to us, they have a very hard time receiving love. And so that's one of the things that we have to work on them with. As far as the employees that work for Faith Farm, the staff, this is not a job to us. This is a calling. We've been called by the Lord to this ministry, and it's not an easy ministry, you know, but it's definitely worthwhile to see as the Lord puts lives back together.
And besides appreciation, I guess the biggest word is self-esteem. And you know, it isn't just people who've been addicts. A lot of people in life don't have self-esteem, and,
sure.
And they go through life, but they miss out. And how did you get your self-esteem?
How did I get my self-esteem?
Yeah, because I know you have it.
Well, I guess I went searching like most people do. I first started out in the military to obtain worth, trying to get approval from, you know, I didn't have a father figure, and so I tried to get my worth out of the military, and that worked really well for quite a while, and then I went and got my worth out of being a husband, and then a business owner, and then I really started to get it when I got into a relationship with Jesus Christ, And so that's, I put all that aside, and I get my worth out of Jesus now. And so we teach the students to get that worth out of Jesus and get that self-esteem out of Him, because we can make mistakes. We can do some different things in our lives that turn out to be destructive in our lives. But if we turn into Jesus, we can find our way through those mistakes or those dysfunctions that we bring onto ourselves sometimes, and really begin to live a productive, peace, joy-filled life. And that's what we try to promote here at Faith Farm. And
yet I know that there have been a lot of people who are addicts who are very religious.
Oh, yeah.
But how do they miss out there? What happens?
Well, I think that the biggest thing is the difference between head knowledge and heart knowledge. We all have to get the information in our our intellectual knowledge, we call it, but we have to get it to go down the 18-inch journey to our heart so we can get some experiential knowledge. And that really is a difference between what we say religion and relationship, to where you begin to really live out your faith in a real, tangible, and personal way.
Not just go to church on Sunday.
Right, yeah, exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Right. And we do that.
Yeah, of course.
But, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're still doing it. It's just not in a building.
Right, and I think that's a good point, and how we maybe can make this come to truth. We have quite a few people listening, watching. Talk about what the day's like. So someone comes in. Let's talk about a new person comes in.
Okay.
And they're, of course, very leery of what they're going to have to do. And tell us what happens in that person's life.
Well, there's an interview process to get into Faith Farm, which is pretty extensive. And if someone not knowing the industry, you would think, well, man, aren't you guys trying to help people? You should just let everybody in. But Faith Farm is not a fit for everybody. There's, we're not a medical facility, so if you are on certain types of medication, we can't service that person because we're not a medical facility. And so, but once the intake process is done and we've invited you to come into our home, that first day is a little scary for a lot of people. They don't know what they're walking into. But as soon as you come through our door, you're going to see a sign with your name on it. And you're going to see welcome home. And I can't tell you how many students, when I do an exit interview with the students before they leave Faith Farm, almost every one of them will say, I couldn't believe you had my name on this stupid little billboard, but it meant so much to me. Yeah. And so we use things like that, that people, if anybody walks by that person when they're coming in, they get a handshake. Well, glad you're here. And then our intake person takes them through the whole intake process of getting them, sometimes people come with us, they don't have anything but the clothes on their back. Some people come with the jailhouse jumpsuit, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so we get them with clothes, we get them, some, health products to shave-in, toothpaste, stuff like that, and give that to them so that they can, we give them a warm place to sleep, we give them food in their bellies, we put in approximately, let me just do some quick math here, about 450 meals, so it's about 1,200 meals a day at the 3 campuses. And so we give them food, we give them clothing if they need clothing, we give them a warm place to stay, and we give them some love. That, like I said, they're sometimes not receiving it, but we give it to them. And so that really, we also give them this thing called a big brother. And a big brother is a person that is in the program ahead of them, that has went through, the first 2 phases of the program, and he kind of helps them along the first 3 or 4 days, just to kind of get acclimated to farm life and the expectations. And so we run a pretty disciplined program, and so there's some expectations that are placed on the students, and it's good to have the big brother there to kind of help them along, and sometimes our students come in and some of them are still detoxing, and so
I didn't know that you
we have they're supposed to come in detox, right, but we know that drugs take a lot longer than just what the detox will allow you to come out of your system, and so sometimes they're still pretty, as an alcoholic, they're pretty wet brained, and sometimes they're still detoxing from some of the chemicals that they're coming off. So they don't think their thinking is not really the best, and so we have to give them a little time to kind of continue to detox.
And once they're there, I know you assign them certain responsibilities. Do you ask them what they want, or you assign them what they're going to do?
We assign them what they're going to do, and typically, like for an example, if a chef comes in, the last place we will put him is the kitchen.
Really?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Well, because that's his comfort zone, and we don't want him in his comfort zone. We want to see him interact in some place other than his comfort zone, because that's really where we're going to find out who he is and where his roots of destruction are. And so we try not to put them. Of course, sometimes we have to do that. Like for an example, if a really good mechanic comes in and we're short on mechanics, we may have to do that because not a lot of people can work on our equipment. But we don't like to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very interesting idea. All right, so now they're there and they're working, and I'm sure sometimes they decide that no, this isn't really right for me. But do the other students help them to think differently?
They encourage them. Of course, once a man's mind is made up, it's made up. There's no talking them out of it. But a lot of guys will say, well, I'm thinking about leaving, and then the other guys will gather around and encourage him to stay. It's really a brotherhood in the dorm. The Okeechobee campus is a little bit smaller than the other two campuses, a little bit more, we'll have 70 men in one room. And so it's not tight, it's a big room, but people know what's going on in your life. And so when they see those behaviors, they kind of come around and say, hey man, what's going on? How can we help you? How can we pray for you? Hey, I felt the same way. Just hang out another couple days and you'll get through this little spot, and because there's different spots in the program. As people come into the program, there's different spots that, and it's not a program thing as it is a timing thing. We call it a bud. You're budding, you're ready to go use again. And so sometimes those come and, the 30, 60, 90-day buds, those kind of happen. And so you kind of have to help them get through that period.
Right. It's a marvelous thing that you do, because we know that there are a lot of other resources out there, and many of them cost a lot of money,
right.
As you know. They don't all work. In fact, I think there's a very high percentage of them that, that they don't see success. But you have something that's been tried and true. It's not perfect, I know that, because people aren't perfect, but you have something that in all the campuses that if anything's going to do it, it seems like your organization does do it, and you do it with such
we try
charity.
Hard, that's for sure.
I know you do. I know. And everybody who's listening, if you have any way to help them, whether it's financially, to write a check, or if you have things that you are going to not use anymore, or you need to have things, you can go to the thrift shops. But I don't think I know of another organization, and I rave about Faith Farm Ministries, because for me, that's the place. You see the good that's being done. It's right there. Their executives do not make a lot of money. They, probably subsistence just to keep themselves going. They live on campus. They are so dedicated. I don't know of another organization. I've said that to so many people.
Well, like I said, it's we're not doing it to get paid. Or obviously we need money to live on. We still have families too, but it's a calling. It's a calling on our lives.
So let's talk about some of the people, though, who have done so well that they decide to stay. Now, I don't know what your case is. Did you come in there?
I did not come through the program.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
They hired you.
I was hired, and I come into the program as an assistant director pastor, and then was promoted, and so. But when the students come into the program, the initial period of the program is a minimum of 10 months. And I say a minimum because sometimes people don't progress the way they need to, and we're not going to just push you ahead just because it's time for you to go ahead. We're going to assess you and say, listen, Anita, we think it's time for you that you're not ready to move to the next section, so we need to keep you here. And then the student has one of two choices. They can sometimes they get upset and they leave, or if they're really looking for a recovery, they're really wanting help, they'll stay. And generally when they stay, every one of them at graduation will say, it's the best thing that ever happened to me is that I got put back, or I had to stay, or whatever. And so a minimum of 10 months. But after the 10 months, if they will invite some, or they'll apply for what we call Advanced Student 1. And that's dedicating their life to Faith Farm for 1 year to help give back what they've gotten.
Huh.
And that's an amazing thing to watch what happens in their lives when they do that.
Tell me about that. I wasn't aware of that, actually.
Well, it's the Advanced Student Program is a great program. They continue their training and recovery, and they continue to be a part of what God is doing on the campuses on a consistent basis. And they get another year at Faith Farm to kind of solidify what they've learned, and they exhibit some leadership qualities, that that we try to promote, if they're going to leave the program eventually, or if sometime they're going to be hired, and you've interviewed different people that have come through the program, and that's where they started at the Advanced 1 level, and then we have an additional Advanced 2 level where they dedicate another year of their life to the farm and the Lord, and so a lot of our people come out of those type of things, those type of
one
situations.
thing I think that we should too, also to help Faith Farm, to let them know that on November the 1st and November the 2nd, it's probably a Saturday and Sunday? You think? Or no, it's probably a Friday and Saturday. Friday and Saturday, November 1st and November 2nd at all campuses. It's going to be, I think, a 70% big sale.
It's going to be a big sale. Generally 50% off.
50% of everything.
As is, yeah.
I mean, you walk in there and it's everything that's 50% off.
No, it's all of our as is, because we do have some new furniture. Of course, we're not able to give off 50% off of new furniture. But,
can't beat that.
All of our as is furniture that's been donated, we do 50% off.
Well, it's so low priced anyway. Now you're taking another 50% off of what it says. That's amazing. Okay, so we want to let you know this is Rick Aspden, who is the Okeechobee Campus Director for Faith Farm Ministries, because that's out in Okeechobee. They have one, of course, in Fort Lauderdale and one in Boynton Beach, and they're not just, that's why we do these shows, they're not just a thrift center.
Right. We do thrift, but that's not what we're all about.
No, you're not. And so it's, you see there are a lot of organizations that have thrift centers.
Sure.
But this is important that you go to Faith Farm Ministries, because that's one of the ways that they support all that you were talking about. There are over 400 and some odd people. Yeah,
we have 440 beds available at the 3 campuses.
And they get 3 meals a day. And
three meals a day, and clothes, and a warm place to sleep.
And who does the laundry?
Students. That's part of one of the jobs that they do.
Oh, so if you're a student but you're not in the laundry, you know that you're going to get fresh sheets and towels?
Right, exactly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, that may be a job that you may get. We try to move the students around quite a bit so they don't get, accustomed to one job and get comfortable.
Right, that's not get them comfortable. Okay, so now let's talk about families. So a lot of them have families, and the families are so happy that they've made this decision, I know.
Yeah.
But yet they do want to see their family. How is that done?
Well, typically we like to have a 30-day window before they're allowed to see their family. And that just basically lets the student land and get his feet up underneath him, so to speak, and just kind of chill and get ready to receive his family, because a lot of the students have done a lot of damage to their families.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of healing that has to take place, and so it's not always good for a family member to visit too soon, because their feelings they're still all up in their feelings, and so is the family member for that matter. But after the 30 days, they can come to church on Sundays, and then after church they can stay till 4:30 and have a visitation day with their family member, and so on the campus. And so that's what we do with the families.
So the children can come as well as
as
the spouses,
right?
Or their friends. They're probably mothers and fathers.
Mothers, fathers, and immediate family. Okay,
so then now they're still in it, and this is every Sunday they can do that, or do you have any? Can they ever go home? with them?
There's some. We have some passes available now. Though that varies campus wide. We're a little bit up at Okeechobee. We're a little bit more. I guess we don't like to give as many passes out as some of the other campuses do, but we give a pass out like once a phase, where you can take a 7-hour pass and go out for the 7 hours, but then you come back in.
Right.
And so
it's a little dangerous. I can see what you're saying. I can
it's
feel
very,
that. That's
there's tension there. You want to let them spend some time with their families, but again, there's tension there that it's an opportunity to
fall
go to
back.
bad thinking, and so we don't want to
back.
It's all about trying to juggle this protection and freedom thing that you want to start fostering in them, but again, there's a lot of tension there.
Do you find that sometimes after they've done this that there are divorces because they realize what they were there wasn't good for them, and that's why they've been drinking or having drugs?
Actually, generally speaking, it's the opposite. And so, like, they've either come in and they're already divorced. Okay, of course, there's a lot of that. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times when they come in, if they stay for any length of period of time and a family member visits, and they begin to understand and they begin to see the change, and that's what we're all about. We're all about this. We're all about trying to rebuild families, because again, that's what it's all about. It's rebuilding the family, molding that man into, first of all, the man he's supposed to be. In the male programs, of course, in the female programs, they're molding that woman into the woman that she's supposed to be, first and foremost. Then the second thing, into the son that they're supposed to be, or the daughter. And then the third thing is that the husband or the wife that they're supposed to be, and then the father or the mother that they're supposed to be. And so our goal is to try, if they're married, our goal is to try and restore that entire family.
Right, because your article, which is coming up, everyone, in the October issue, says, title, "The Curse is the Addict's Child."
The curse of the addict's child.
The curse of the addict's child. That's right, because they're the ones that really seem to feel everything.
Well, if you look at this thing called addiction, and you begin to do just any interviewing with anybody that's struggled in addiction, typically they have family members that were addicts, and so it's this perpetual thing that continues to get handed down as almost a generational curse that gets handed down from father to son to daughter to mother to daughter. It just gets handed down, and so we're trying to break that. That's what our goal is to break the generational curse that gets handed down.
Do you ever have educational programs for the families?
Well, that's something that we're trying to do in the future. We do not have that right now. We have a limited staff, and so it's something that's on our hearts to do, is a family program. We do some limited family programs, but not to where we want to get to.
So they can't, the spouse or the kids, the adult children, can't really come to any of the sessions that you...
Right, yeah, no.
No, it's really pretty private. And
right.
Yeah. The one thing that I'm always amazed at when I have various people on the radio show and I go to graduations and to the annual homecoming, people are very free to talk about their problem. They don't. Some of the situations have been very, very difficult.
Oh yeah,
and they get up there and they talk about, especially the women. Oh my gosh.
Right.
That's part of the therapy, isn't it?
It is. It is. When you come to understand, we're always trying to get the students. Listen, you don't have to protect yourself. You don't have to protect. We love you. Doesn't matter what you've done, where you've come from. We love you just because you're here. And no matter what's happened to you, it's okay. It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters. You know what I mean? It matters to the emotional health of that person, but it doesn't matter to us that we're not going to judge you about what's happened to you in your life, or even what you've done in your life. Because some of the people have done some pretty horrific things themselves. They've had some horrific things done, and they've done some horrific things. But the quicker that we can get them to open up and be real and be, there's a difference between being honest and being transparent. Honesty is me telling you what I want you to know. Transparency is me telling you everything, regardless of whether I want you to know it or not. And that's when the real healing begins in people's lives, because we can find those root issues.
Yeah, you've had a lot of experience with this. I mean, how long have you been there?
I've been at the Faith Farm for almost 5 years now.
5 years.
Yeah.
And you came from the outside. What were you doing before?
Well, I was a homeland missionary directly before Faith Farm, and then prior to being called into the ministry, I was a business owner. I was a contractor.
So did you know about things like this? Did
I
you have
did.
some of your people who were...
I did. I actually drove by Faith Farm Okeechobee from 1999 till 2014, almost on a daily basis. But
Really? Because that's where you lived, out there.
well, I lived out
Yeah,
there
it
and I did
worked.
business out there, and so I actually would drive by that place a number of times. And so
Did you know what they did there?
I did.
Oh.
I did know what they did there, and so but I never thought I'd be working there. But it's amazing what
That's right.
the
Well,
Lord does
that's
in,
right.
in people's lives.
This was the right thing for you. Obviously, I can see where you would be very inspirational to them. And do you have guest speakers that come in?
Occasionally. Actually, we just had a gentleman come in from Cuba. So Yasser Serrano, I think I'm pronouncing that his last name correctly, and spoke with the guys. And so occasionally we'll have some guest speakers, but not often.
No.
Not often.
Yeah, you save them for the big events.
Right, sure.
The one thing I want everyone to know, the way you're going to get in touch with them is you're going to go to faithfarm.org. Faithfarm.org. That's the everything. I'm not going to give you the phone number. Just go online, faithfarm.org. Please put them in your will. They need money. They need cash. Besides the thrift shops, you don't have to give a lot. You can give a whole lot. We'd love for someone who's very wealthy to put in their will $1 million. You cannot imagine what it would do. Or if you only have 5, that's okay too. But I'm always pushing that. I think people, sometimes they don't know where to leave their money. Well, if you care about what I am and what I say, I tell you Faith Farm Ministries is the place to do this. So, Rick, it was wonderful having you here again.
Thank you so
I
much.
know it's a big
Thanks for
trip for
having
you
me
to
back.
come out here, but it makes a difference. I know people have been listening to you, and it's very important so that they understand what Faith Farm Ministries, is, and that they can participate, contribute, or go there if that's what they need.
Sure. That's our heart's desire, is to help people.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right. God bless.